Hey there, today I'm going to talk about how I'm going to try and be a little more environmentally aware this season. After packing 450 plastic bags for my PCT thru-hike attempt in 2017, I thought I would really make a big effort to change things up a little bit this season. So I'm going to talk about the different things I'm doing. This isn't just for thru-hikers, this is for day hikers, weekenders. Anybody I think can put some of these tips to use. And if you're new to our channel, welcome. My name is Aaron Owens Mayhew. I'm an ultralight long-distance backpacker and registered dietitian, and I'm also the founder and owner of backcountryfoodie.com, which is an online platform for backpackers that are interested in meal planning and ultralight recipes. I do live in a van with my husband and dog full-time, so please bear with us. This is why we're here today. It is a little windy, but because I'm packing up the last bit of my food for my trip, this is the only opportunity we're going to have to film this, so I wanted to take advantage of it. If you want to learn any more about me or our business, feel free to look down in the comments below, and let's get started. So like I said, in 2017, I used a lot of vacuum sealed plastic bags that are one use only. So this season, I'm really trying to avoid using these. Instead, what I'm using is, because I've gone through so many bags of commercially bought ingredients, is I'm actually reusing the ingredients bags. So this was originally freeze-dried yogurt drops, and this now has an entire smoothie recipe in it. So, and I also like dehydrated cherries, some nut mixes. So these are all snacks that are going with me. I'm reusing these. These are now heat sealed, so they are airtight. And then the other thing I'm trying out this season are compostable bags. Right now I'm planning to not add water to these because I'm planning to cook in my pot, because I do want to try and recycle these when I get home by adding more food into them. A lot of these have trail mix in them, but I might actually use them for drinking. This is my orange cream meal replacement drink. If you watch some of my videos, you know I'm a huge fan of liquid nutrition. So I will probably add water because I do that while I'm hiking. I just add water, zip it up, shake, and drink while I go. So that will be the time that these will be one use only. And I'm also a big fan of packaging all my food in a 24-hour rations. And a lot of people do, you'll put it in a 1-gallon freezer bag. If you can see up close, this has actually been used for the PCT, the Oregon Coast Trail, and this trip. So I've had this since 2017. I wash and reuse these over and over and over again. But going forward, what I'm doing this year is I'm actually using produce bags that I use when I go grocery shopping. So these are just mesh, you can wash and reuse them. So this is what my daily rations are gonna go in. I'm only going to use as many as I need in my backpack. I'm not buying one for every single day of my trip because I did have enough of these old plastic ones for all my trip. And if you're in an area where bears aren't such a concern and you don't need an odor-proof bag, they actually come big enough that you could put this in your food sack. So you could actually put this in your sack, your bear sack, whatever it is, and then hang it from the tree. And another thing I'm doing this season is using bulk Parmesan cheese. The last year I used the little packets from like pizza joints. And that was a lot of waste because you only got one serving per packet, and I use a lot of cheese. That's one thing I really love when I'm hiking. So that was creating a lot of waste. So what I'm doing this time is buying this in bulk, and then when I'm resupplying, I'm filling it up with these smaller containers and keeping it in my backpack. This season's a little bit different because Chris is going to be following me along for the trip, so I do have the luxury of being able to fill this up in the van and then hitting back on trail. So this would actually be something that might work for a weekender, maybe not so much for a thru hiker. And also I'm trying out some vegan cheese, so similar kind of thing. I bought these little containers that I'm going to refill as I go. Another thing that I'm going to try differently is I love honey stinger waffles. It's actually the one product that I can continue to eat over and over again, but again, it's a lot of plastic waste with all the individual wrappers. So I actually brought Stroop waffles this time, and I'm going to package them individually over and over again. I've got like an English muffin bag. I might put it in one of these. I might put it in any of these other bags that I can wash and reuse over and over again, instead of having those one-use wrappers that are going to go in the trash. And then for the snacks that I do really enjoy that come in large bags, what I'm going to do is similarly is I bought these muslin bags that can be washed and reused. So again, in the van, this is not really something a thru hiker could normally do, is take these out of the large bag, put it in a much smaller bag so it'll fit in my bear bag a lot better. And then I'm going to leave this behind and reuse it like I did the other bags for packaging meals. And then there's the option of using less ramen packaging. So you can always just buy it in bulk. And these are small enough that they will fit in the muslin bags. So similar kind of thing, not packaging extra waste with me when I go, putting them in these, washing these when I get home. And when I do carry a regular ramen, I'm not going to take it out of the packaging like I used to. I would put this package in another plastic bag and then cook it in the plastic bag. But this year, because I'm doing less freezer bag cooking, I'm doing more in my bot. I'm just going to pack it as is. And similar things, this is a smaller package of a snack. I'm going to take this actually with me on trail, save it, and then reuse it again with maybe some trail mix or nuts or something on another trip. And then another way I'm preventing waste is previously I used individual servings of olive oil in little foil packets, which, by the way, they tend to leak a lot, so I highly recommend avoiding those. And then other times I've used little plastic bottles of them. Again, there was a lot of plastic waste. It did get recycled, but it was still waste. So I'm using some small nalgene bottles. Again, this is something weekenders and day hikers might have a better opportunity to use. And also for coconut oil, I've previously used those single serving packets from Trader Joe's. They work awesome, but I'm going to try this little bitty container. It's also a nalgene container of just taking my big bulk container of coconut oil and putting it in there. And then, like I said, I'm going to do more cooking in a pot this season. You don't have to use a big fancy pot. If you want a cold soak, that's becoming more popular. All you have to do is wash and reuse a nut butter jar. A little tip is make sure you get one that is big enough to put your hand all the way in so you can clean it. So that's a tip with that. Just wash and reuse over and over again. This is also really good for meal replacement drinks. Just shake it up while you're walking, that kind of thing. But when I do cook out of my pot, there are a couple ways to clean it that's a little more environmentally friendly. Instead of taking paper towels or napkins or one-use wipes, those kinds of things, I wrap up my stove. You may have seen this in our gear list video, which that's something that you might find useful for this trip as well, is a tiny little baby washcloth. So this is something that I use. I wrap up my stove and my lighter to keep it from kind of banging up my pot, but this is something I can wash and reuse to clean up my pot. And then another way to clean is a tiny little scrubber. This is actually one of our dish scrubs at home that I've cut into maybe like a sixth of the size. So this is something you can use. Ideally, you're going to leave no trace by adding in water, swishing it around and drinking the gray water, or dispersing it widely in the backcountry. Make sure you do it 200 feet or more away from a water source. And if you do tend to cook with olive oil or coconut oil, it will leave a residue. So there are times that you might want to have a little bit of dish soap. This is biodegradable soap. Rather than buying a camp soap container and those kinds of things, this is just an eyedropper that I put a tiny little amount of soap in that I can drip in here, use this over and over again when I get home, just refill it. So that's another way that I'm going to try to be a little more environmentally friendly this season. Another way is a lot of hikers will put their trash in their freezer bags, and then that just gets thrown away. So my preference is to use an odor-proof bag that I wash and reuse. This one could actually use to be washed, so I apologize, but I do wash and reuse these. This one I've had since 2017 from the PCT, so it's held up really well. Similar to what I talked about on my gear list video, is I keep a tiny one to put any of the wrappers for like the nut mixes and those kind of things that live in my hip belt pockets, so it keeps all those crumbs from ending up in my backpack, which the mice love. So I do wash and reuse an odor-proof small bag for that reason. So those are just a few of the things I'm trying this season to try to be a little more environmentally aware. So if you want to follow along and see how it goes, you can find me on Instagram at backcountry_foodie or Facebook at backcountryfoodie. And if you are hiking the Colorado Trail this summer, I really do hope I see you. This is exactly what I'm wearing, so be sure to stop and say hello. I'd love to hear how your trip's going. I'd love to even see what you're eating, because you know I love talking about backpacking food. So until next time, happy trails.